Hello everybody. We are just checking out if everything is alright. And we are once again live. Hopefully things look good. Just make sure I'm not okay. I'll be looking at this. Hello everybody. Apparently I am live. Could it be? It could. I look a little washed out. Let me just do my little magic. I don't know if it has to do with this. Sorry guys. But I've kind of pretty much just want to make sure that it looks okay. So back here, and let's click this again. Yeah, better. Hey everybody. Well, everyone's all right. And we are here once again for another live show. And things look okay. How is everybody? How is everybody? Okay, just going to open this in a new window. Like this. That's good. And we'll move this up to see the number of viewers, and we are ready to go. Hey everyone, welcome aboard. This is the Shortwave radio show, the edition of the Saturday one. Yeah, the ones we have every 2 weeks on Saturday. Nice to see all of you and hope that everybody's all right. And of course, this is a Saturday show where we basically just, talk about radio. Once again, we'll have a few frequencies, including frequencies for the Canadian Armed Forces. We don't talk about the Canadian Armed Forces much. And basically, Canadian Armed Forces have some activity on HF. Of course, Canadian Armed Forces are like, very small compared to United States. But there's a few frequencies I think that are cool to monitor. One that is easy, of a weather station that comes from Trenton, Ontario, Canada. And basically, we will have some of the frequencies where most of the activity. There's also a Canadian equivalent of the Mars nets from the U.S. Air Force, which is the Military Auxiliary Radio System. There's one which is the CFARS, which is Canadian Forces Auxiliary Radio System. And basically, there's some stuff that you can listen to with that. And so we have some frequencies. We have frequencies for the amateur radio bands. Somebody, yesterday we talked about the international broadcast bands. I have some people that ask me, look, I don't know where to listen to when I want to listen to amateur radio. By the way, there's a contest tonight, so there's like tons of signals, and there's tons of signals on CW. There's a lot of CW signals, but there's some signals, lots of stuff. The contest this weekend. And don't forget, today only, and I don't know up to what time, but today only, there's reactivation of Y8 call signs that are from the what was the East Germany. So there's like a certain number of stations that are operating under the Y8 call letters, and these were the call letters that were actually used in the Cold War when East Germany existed at some point. So it's your only chance. It's the first time in 28 years that these call signs are activated, and they might never be activated again. So it's kind of your chance today. They're scattered across the bands. They were doing a lot of CW today. I saw that there was a lot of them on Morse code, but apparently they're also operating on a single sideband, upper sideband, lower sideband, depending on the band. So we'll be looking at that for sure today. I think that's going to be quite interesting to look at. So nice to see everybody here. We'll have all of that. My name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And of course, we entertain you for a couple of hours, 3, 4, 5, 6. The record is 5 hours and 30 minutes, I believe. So I don't believe we'll do that today. But, you know, it's kind of fun to be here. And we did 3 hours yesterday. And but there's no official time limit. You know, it could last 90 minutes. It could last 6 hours. We never know. It's always, you know, we go with the flow. It depends on what we have, information, the people that are there, and all that we have to share about radio in general. Sunny, well, kind of a mix of sun and cloud day here in Montreal, about mid-80s, mid-80s. My thermometer says 31 Celsius. I believe it's a little warm. It's maybe in the sunshine. I think it probably is more like 27 or 28 Celsius. But in here we're a cool 71 Fahrenheit. Of course, it's going to go up because I have to shut down the air conditioning when I do the live shows, unless you want to hear a constant noise in the background. So anyways, nice to see everybody in here. So I got my beer. Cheers. This one is the first one, which is à tout le monde, which means for everybody. This is my first, 4.5%, so kind of a light one. So cheers, everybody. There's this guy from Lithuania on 14222.4. You guys want to listen to Lithuania? There's this guy from Lithuania. (14222.4) upper sideband. So 14222.4, I believe, is the guy from Lithuania. So anyways, nice to see you here. Hope you're going to enjoy today's show. I've shut down the light that was at the ceiling because it's the one that's hitting the top of the screen and it makes a big blur. So I thought that maybe we could, I'll try it with 3 lights. One there, and one at the bottom here. Hopefully it's going to be okay. And it's nice to have everybody on board, and I'll have a few questions probably also for you guys during the day. So we're going to say hello to our chat room. Hello there, Jerry DX. Nice to have you here. Zach Antol, nice to have you on board. PLF Radio, nice to have you here, and happy birthday to France. It's today's your day, so hope that everything's all right. And I want to wish a fantastic national holiday for all the French people watching out there. Dexfar74, nice to have you here from Germany. Fastlow, nice to have you here from basically down the road, not that far away. It's, you know, compared to the island of Montreal where it is, Fastlow is not really that far from me, actually. Zach Anto, deleted your Microsoft account. Any reason why? Vancouver Island DXer, nice to have you here, Brian. VE7AUL, VE7011SWL. Bobby Burgess, nice to have you here. WA5107 SWL, Morgan City, Louisiana. Yeah, we kind of have a small armed forces that kind of is involved in little things here and there, but it's not very big. Mark Cope, nice to have you here. 95 Fahrenheit, in the shack. Whoa, but the beer is cold and the fans are on. Okay, at least. Reminds me of when I was younger and we didn't have air conditioning in the 80s. And in the summertime, I would be doing some shortwave listening. And I remember when I had that big Army tube radio that was amazingly hot when it was running. I remember being inside and it was like 95 Fahrenheit inside, like, you know, 35 Celsius or something inside the home. after a long day of really, really, and you know, many days of like really hot weather. And I remember being inside and listening to those signals, and having the fan on and trying to cool down with a fan, but it was like, man, crazy. I remember I would actually have my Realistic DX 302 was not very far from the balcony, and I had a pair of earphones with the spring cord that would extend really, really far. So I would plug that in the Realistic DX302, and I would listen in with the cord all stretched, and I would be on the balcony with the cord really stretched out, listening to Radio Australia or Radio New Zealand or you know, all of these stations that were back in the 80s, like United Arab Emirates and stuff like that. I remember when these are nice souvenirs, you know, being like, you know, my parents would always go to bed really early, so it's like, you know, at 11 p.m. typically I was the only one up, and you know, everything was dark, the lights were closed everywhere, and I was just, you know, like stretching the cord, going on the balcony to cool down because it was too hot inside the home, and listening to shortwave, you know, 11 p.m. midnight, seeing all the people. There was my neighbors. I remember there were two houses on the other side of the street where, at, like, you know, when it was really hot, I would see my neighbors that would simply just be there, and basically, you know, it was just too hot for them too, so they would basically spend the night on the balcony, or almost. And I would listen to shortwave, you know, and go to bed maybe in the summertime. You know, I mean, you're on school vacation. I'd go to bed at, I don't know, 1 a.m. sometimes maybe 2 a.m. A few times I pulled some all-nighters. You know, like going to you know, wanting to listen in, and basically just going to sorry guys, just changing something. So, you know, doing it all night, just listening in to the shortwave bands all night was kind of cool. That was kind of fun. Memories. And 0HIU, nice to have you here. D-Raf, hello there. Randall Kluntz, nice to have you on board from Chicagoland. PLF says 10-meter band is open. Yeah, I've seen a few reports about 10 meters being open across Europe almost. I did see one post from a guy in Northern Ireland, Jordan, saying that I believe it was Jordan, saying that the 10-meter band was open, and a lot of people I've seen a few posts, people saying, hey, it's open across Europe, and probably some sport at east kept happening there. Here I checked a few times, but nothing really, you know, there, honestly. Randall Klons, so Zach Anto, can we listen to Finland? I want to hear that is a Finnish language. There's really, you know, unless we hear an amateur radio operator and that speaks Finnish, we probably won't hear. You know, I always remember these languages, like, you know, trying to listen into, like, you know, Radio Norway, Radio Finland, and just thinking about, well, you know, getting the language right, you know, that's Norwegian, that's Finnish, that's, you know, it's just crazy. Steve in Australia, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Yep, tomorrow's a big game, France and Croatia. So the only reason I remember at PLF Radio the France national holiday is simply because they're so close to, you know, Canada's the 1st of July, US is the 4th of July, and France is the 14th of July. So it kind of, like, they're kind of close together. So I kind of always remember, you know, I remember these three. Of course, if I didn't remember Canada Day, it would be horrible. But but you know, it's just. So Zach says, I believe because I'm an Apple guy, I basically don't have any laptops to use. Yeah, you use whatever you need to use. That's pretty much it. Absolutely. MEC from Central Pennsylvania, nice to have you here. And yeah, tomorrow might be a special day for France too. Absolutely. I can imagine. You know, here we'll hear cars going around with their horns honking. All the French people will be here, and probably we will hear a lot of, especially if they win. I don't know if we have a big Croatian um, community here in Montreal or in Canada, but I know we have quite a few French people here in Montreal, so I wouldn't be surprised that tomorrow is going to be car honk day for especially if France wins. Dave Todd, W4RTN, nice to have you on board on 14241, running a contest, a special event, and up numbers. Cool, let's check out 14241. Wonder if I can hear something. 14241. Anything on 14241? Just leave it there a little bit. Hey, I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it. Weak, but it's there. I just heard you, Dave. W4RTN. I believe I just heard you. You're weak, but you're there. 14241. Cool. What else do we have? You heard your first amateur signal on 10 meters. Oh, this is cool. It's always exciting to, have a new band, have a new thing that you've never heard before. Frequency range where there's always nothing, and then suddenly a signal appears mysteriously. So nice to have you. It's nice to have that for sure. Billy Laptop, hey there. Nice to have you here. Nice to have you here. Mad Radio DXer, hello there. Nick Amendel from Romania, nice to have you here. And yeah, I am in the process of totally changing my my office. Actually, what's happening in Expar 74 is that this used to be my office when I did tech duties. So it was really oriented, and the major part of it was simply, using this room as my main office for all the tech jobs and people. Some people would actually bring computers over and stuff like that. But the problem is now the thing is we have moved. I've moved from doing that to pretty much full-time YouTube. So what's happening is that it was time to change the office, to have this office reflect my new job, which is YouTuber. And for that, well, I got to change different things. And what's going to happen, the way I want to actually do it right now is going to be 3 different setups. Here, there's going to be something there, and there's going to be something in the other side where I used to do the live radio shows. That's going to be different also. And these 3 different setups will be for different shows. So I have the setup for the radio, which will be here. I'll have another setup. I kind of plan to have the setup for the tech show on that side. So I'm going to set up different things there. And on the back there, I want to have a different setup for something totally new coming this fall. I'm thinking of a show called Anything Goes, and the reason it's called Anything Goes is because I can tell you, anything goes. Anything can happen. It's going to be a hell of a show. I got some ideas, and I think that's going to be kind of interesting. So that's coming up, slowly coming up, and we'll be checking that out for sure. So I hope that for sure. Okay, just sorry here. I'm looking at everything is all right. Yep, cool. So, anyways, different things coming up. So this is going to be basically this is changing for a YouTuber studio, and what I'm thinking now is how I'm gonna, I'm streaming with a phone, but I'm not totally happy with the phone. Although it works well, I want something else. So I'll be two things that I need to get before the end of the year is a more powerful computer and maybe a new camera. So we'll be checking that out anyways as time goes by. It's a lot of money, and you know, want to make sure that I invest it in a way that it's actually going to make money also, because it's part of the game. It's you know, I love doing these shows, but unfortunately, I gotta live and pay the bills, and it seems that it's like that for everyone. So, anyways, that's gonna be kind of cool. Brandon Sexton, nice to have you here. Pretty cool to have you on board. What else do we have? Let's go down. Oh, really, Dave? 14241 is what Dave was mentioning. The contest going on. Fernando Francici, I don't know how you pronounce these next, but Fernando, hello there from Philadelphia, nice to have you on board. Senior Stab from Romania, nice to have you here. Vivian Lund, hey there, from Raleigh, North Carolina, pretty cool, nice to have you here, Vivian. I still have your, I stumbled across your comment when I was talking about how I was not really happy with my office, and when you commented that you're not happy with your office, and you know you understand the feeling. Well, Dexpar, you know what? I used to do most of my listening in the kitchen, and my ICOM was on my dryer. So you know, I understand the feeling, but you know what? It's better than nothing, and if it works for you, why not? I have the privilege of being able to have a full room that I totally devote to what I do, but then again, I kind of have to, because some people would be really mad if I had my stuff everywhere else in the home. So, you know. Man. Rock the Tech Guy, nice to have you here. Yep, my dryer. My first videos, by the way, and the first live shows, I think the first few live shows, are with the radio next to my, on the dryer in my kitchen. And a lot of my videos, the first videos that I posted on the channel, and I've got a lot of them, with the radio on the dryer before I moved everything here, which was complex because I have a long way to go between the backyard and here. So, man. Rock Tech Guy says radio is crammed next to the bed. You know, at least you got a place for the radio, you know. That's we do what we can on this. You know, when I was young, I had we had a very small 3 apartment, and so I was sleeping in the living room. My bed was in the living room, so my stuff was on the living room, you know. So I had to listen from the living room. I had a pair of earphones so that my parents don't get annoyed by the noise of my radio, and I'd listen in the living room with my headphones, you know, pretty much. The Big Red Book is not a Bible, it's a dictionary. It's a big, old dictionary that is there. I do not think I have a Bible in the home. If I have a Bible in this house, it's because a religious station sent me some Bible or New Testament or something, because I don't have a Bible here and do not plan to have one. So anyways, welcome aboard, guys and girls, and it's nice to see you here, and it's always cool. So yeah, lots of activity on the 20-meter band today. It's really, really, really nice to see all the activity here. Pretty cool stuff. Checking out Delta Lima 5, that's a German station. I don't know where it is from though. 9 Alpha Zero Hotel Quebec. Where's that from? 9 Alpha Zero Hotel Quebec. Let me check that out. I'm going to log into QRZ.com. Here we go. Nine Alpha Zero Hotel Quebec. That is in Croatia, actually. So it's the IARU HF Championship thing. So that's Croatia there. Talking about, you know, Croatia in the big game tomorrow. Croatia is really, really strong. 14204.85. So that's a Croatian station. Pretty strong guy. Pretty strong guy. The Drifter UK, good evening. Nice to have you on board from M3CSP. Nice to see you here, Steve. What else do we have? Have you heard of Clyde Devine? He was a cinematographer who won Oscar and second Oscar. Used to talk with film crews on location back in the 30s. It was a radio enthusiast. The name vaguely tells me something. I'm not sure. The name kind of vaguely says something, comes to my mind. So N0HIU. Good afternoon, John. You look on the Canadian Air Force frequencies. Yeah, we're gonna have a few frequencies that I'll mention that I have found. You know, it's there are things like that that are a little difficult to find sometimes. There are some of these frequencies lists that are like old lists from, you know, 1995 and stuff like that. I fell on a list of very extensive Canadian military frequencies on shortwave from 1994. But we're in 2018, so chances are a lot of these frequencies are absolutely useless today. But I've found one that's 2015 list, and it is from the Canadian Air Force. So for some of the frequencies, I would say, and we'll put that here. So this is one that I've seen a few times, but I will post the link in the chat room. So Canadian Forces. There we go. Is that working? It's not. Okay, let me just get that again. So Canadian Forces. Copy and paste. So this is Canadian Forces. Oh, I'm on the wrong account. Oops, I didn't see that. I'm actually on my Learn Windows and Computer channel account here. I did not see that. So, okay. I need to change account if I want to. One moment, guys. I'll be here in a few seconds with the main account. That is funny. That is funny. I gotta change that to my shortwave account. Official shortwave radio. There we go. There we go. And official shortwave. There we go. And here I am with the correct account. Okay, that was fun. So let me just do that. Okay, we are here. Looks good. And let's put the chat room on top. Funny. I didn't realize I was on the wrong account. Okay, here we are. So here's the frequency list for Air Force, Canadian Forces. There we go. Let me go back down here. Try to find something. Okay. So, anyways, so these are that's one list of the Canadian Forces. List that you have available, and it has a few frequencies, and these are because I compared lists, and the list that I'm sharing now is kind of a list, a common list, where there's a lot of things happening, and a lot of these frequencies that are in that list are pretty much frequencies that are coming back all the time throughout different lists. So that's pretty much where you'll listen in and hear some of the Canadian stuff. One frequency to note, 11232. I have personally heard some Canadian Forces activity there on 11232. So I know that one is active, and it's been active not that long ago. Unfortunately, I had nothing to record what was happening, so I couldn't do a video. But I would say less than a year ago, 11232 was one that I heard activity from the Canadian Forces. So check that out. It's the frequency list there is short, but not too bad, and shouldn't be too bad to listen to, for sure. What else do we have? Hey, Mickey Delmage, nice to have you on board. Yeah, the World Radio TV Handbook right there. That's the 2017 edition. I have here, which is the oldest edition that I've got, which is the 2001 edition, which states that we can still listen to. You know, if you start looking at the 2001 edition, you start going nuts. All the stations that were there in 2001 that don't exist in 2018. So, you know. Next far is receiving 5450 kilohertz upper sideband, the Royal Air Force from the UK. Coming in really well usually here in the evening. Hello there, Ivan. Nice to have you here. I shall echo. John O'Connor, Heat Computers. Mine won't let you see your video. Really? What? You need maybe to change browser. Hey, Jane Dagger. Nice to have you here. PLF radio, are these frequencies audible in Europe? Yeah, for the most, you know, you got to understand that a lot of these frequencies, you know, that's much low power compared to any other things. So, of course, being low power means it's more difficult, but it's not impossible to hear these in Europe. But it will probably be more of a challenge than receiving many other signals from North America. But, you know, these are frequencies to try and listen to from time to time. You never know. Just for the fun of it, I'll stick myself on 11232. You know, maybe some Canadian Forces guys looking at the video and saying, "Hey, let's broadcast for this guy." No, I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. So nice to have you here. So those are, you know, the frequencies that are probably the most active for what is Canadian Forces. And of course, in there, two that are probably the easiest to hear and test if you can hear them in Europe, for example, is the Valmet stations from Trenton Military, 6754 and the 15034. I haven't heard the 15 megahertz one in a long time, because, you know, the skip needs to be really short for me to hear that one. But I do hear 6754 regularly. I've heard it 3 or 4 times in the past month alone. So these are things to check for. And, you know, also you got to remember that the Canadian Forces, Canadian Air Force, is really not what the U.S. Military is. So, you know, there won't be that much stuff for sure. Second, what are you planning for dinner? I'm starving right now. I think I will be. I'm not sure yet actually, but I think I will be. Um, I think hamburgers on the barbecue is going to be the thing. It's easy and nothing complicated. I've got these chicken patties that I purchased that are actually pretty surprising. I rarely buy these things because often there's like no chicken and a lot of other things. But those are actually not too bad. So I don't know, something like that. Fireworks have begun PLF Radio. Yeah, of course at this time now. You guys over there is evening, late evening. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. What else do we have? Richard Cook, nice to have you on board. For sure, always cool to see everybody. What do we have? Dave Todd says WLO has cut back big time. Oh really? They've cut back on their transmissions? I forgot to mention it. Unfortunately, Friday was the night of nights, that time of the year where they reactivate some of the maritime stations. And I saw the post yesterday morning, and I said, "Oh man, I forgot night of nights." I would have talked about it, for sure. So, anyways, apart from that, propagation's been pretty good. I haven't posted the propagation report. Somebody asked me, I didn't post the propagation report on Thursday. I didn't because it was kind of the continuation of pretty much the same conditions that I posted Monday. So I thought, let's wear it off, and of course I'll post my next propagation bulletin on Monday. So this is going to be okay. Apart from that, somebody asked me about the amateur bands. Where are the amateur bands? One of the things that I've never heard, and I don't know if any of you guys have tried that. So below the long wave band for Europe and Asia, there's an amateur band that is in the very low frequencies of 135.7 to 137.8 kilohertz. Really low in the long wave band. It's called the 2,200 meter band. Anybody ever heard a signal there? I mean, I've tried a few times, but very high noise level mixed in with signals that are probably very weak, because I'm not sure, but I think these are limited in like power. I've never heard anything in that range, 2,200 meters. Anybody heard something that can tell me, yeah, I've heard some stuff there, or operated there? I mean, it looks like it is very, 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 very interesting. Southern Illinois Sand, Brother Star might just bring down half of the shortwave broadcasting world. He's everywhere. He's back almost everywhere. I can tell you that. MEC says Knights of Nights was nice. Able to hear their signals pretty well with the Texan 880 and built-in whip antenna. Yeah, usually they are. Quite easy to listen to, and it's fun to hear there's reactivation also. MDK2, nice to have you here. Just a little pop-in as I'm getting ready for grilling party. Cool. That's always fun. And see you next week. Absolutely. Cheers. And his call sign is KE0SFC. So, yeah, why not? Why not? Well, that'd be fun. If Brother Stare does give me a geo clock, I mean, these are really expensive, but I gotta say they are very, very beautiful. I remember seeing one of the world map thing. It was very, very expensive, and thinking, wow, these look so cool. But you know what? If I would have the money, honestly, instead of buying that, you get yourself a, 70-inch screen or 80-inch screen, and you dedicate it to just a world map with, you know, clocks at the bottom, different times, and UTC, and, you know, day night, that would be like really cool, you know. No problem, PLF Radio. You know, instead of paying 4,000, it's going to cost you even less by, you know, taking a 70-inch TV and a cheap PC and doing that all the time with it, you know. So it's kind of, you can do it. XPA2 at 2100 UTC on 15967. Let's put ourselves there. 7. And we'll see if we hear XPA2 Russian number station soon. So it's pretty cool. Apart from that, so okay, there's a amateur band really down and the VLF, very low frequency portion of the band. Then we move up to what is another, there one in the, I don't know, that one I haven't heard also. There's something apparently around 472 to 479 kilohertz, just below the commercial AM broadcast band. It's the 630 meter band. I haven't heard anything there also, honestly. The next one, which is also a medium frequency, somebody was telling me, oh, well, that's shortwave. Well, no, it's not shortwave. Shortwave technically starts at 3 megahertz, by the way. 1.8 to 2 megahertz, 1,800 to 2,000 kilohertz, just above the AM broadcast band. That's the 160 meter band, and which is it's often a challenge to listen to for a lot of radios, because being so close to the internet, the AM band, the problem is the AM stations often overload, you know, cheaper receivers. But when you have a receiver that's not too bad, I hear quite a few things on the 160 meter band. There's a group hanging out in the northern state of New York and Maine that talk together every night on 1850 lower sideband. I hear a few others. I believe some in Ontario, like on around like 1935 kilohertz, something like that. So there is some activity when you listen there. It's really just a nighttime band, though. But there's some stuff to listen to on 1800 to 2000 kilohertz. So and it's a lower sideband frequency range, except for the digital modes. And there's AMers around, I believe, 1885, something like that. Sometimes it's an interesting band. It's the band that you're not going to hear from very far. You know, some of DX the world there, but for the most part, that 160 meter band is more of a local nighttime band, technically, for the most part. But it's fun to listen to. It's really fun to listen to. I do like that. Yeah, Jane Dagger, absolutely. I could substitute that for something else. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yvonne says, I've seen an antenna for the low band. The coil on the bottom is as big as my house. Whoa, that is amazing. That is amazing. And Richard Cook says that Cuban numbers, HM01, will be on 16180 roughly at the same time. So we'll try both and see which one comes in. 2100 UTC. N0HIU says, I want to say its power is limited to 10 watts. Whoa, that's not very powerful. So you need really good radios and very low noise to do things. To listen to whatever on that frequency range. Madridu DXer says 160 meter has AM activity at night here in Europe, including 1840 kilohertz, which is for FT8. So it's pretty cool. 160 meter band is nice. Jane Dyer says, so transmitter is still under FCC rules for broadcasting with this 160 band. or is this wall open ready for my input nightmares? It's a regulated amateur radio band as usual, like all the other amateur radio bands technically. It's just that it's in the medium wave scale, so it's just above the AM band. It's fun to listen to. I remember an old analog AM radio that I had, and I didn't know back then because I didn't know there was an amateur band at that low frequency. When I would tune completely to the top, I would hear what I didn't know was then, but now I know was Morse code. And that's where I realized when and I didn't have the radio anymore when I realized that. I realized that actually the AM band of portion of that radio actually would extend up to the 160 meter band. So I would kind of get the bottom part where there's some Morse code of the 160 meter band, but I didn't know that then. I had no idea what that was. I was curious, but I had no idea, and no internet in 1980, 81 meant, I have no idea. And unless, you know somebody that's an amateur that might tell you, oh, you're getting the bottom part of 160 meters, I was clueless as to what it was. I believe what was it? No, I was totally clueless, honestly. From what I remember, I'm trying to remember if I could even just think that it was maybe Morse code, but I think it was like just I didn't know what that was. And it's later that I noticed that AM radio would actually touch the lower part of the 160 meter band. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of nice. Chris Freitas, nice to have you here. I was thinking about you the other 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks ago, I think, on the International Radio Report when I was there, and I think was the first ID was you saying, "Hey, this is Chris Freitas, listening to the International Radio Report." It was nice. So Chris, nice to have you here, and he's saying just grab some lunch from the barbecue shop, a nice pulled pork sandwich. Everybody's giving me, making me hungry now. Actually, I'm on a diet, so I'm always hungry right now. And that makes me go nuts even more. Because I want to lose weight. And I'm succeeding, kind of, but, I gotta, it's really hard. So I'm often hungry. And I'm hungry right now. I'm reading all you guys talking about food. And I'm like, man, I want one. So you're about to open up your Sangean RCR20. Soon I will see how audio is with the RTL SDR on Bluetooth. That's going to be interesting. That's interesting. And Chris Freitas has some nice videos also. Vancouver Island The Exorcist says 160 meters has a cult following, and the people there are generally much better behaved than some of those who dwell in the 80 meter band. Yeah, from what I noticed of the 160 meter band, is that over the years, I pretty much seem to see that it's always the same gang. One gang that I've seen from here, south in Quebec, that speak French, they're often on 3765 in the evening in the 80 meter band, and they spend all the evening talking to each other on 3765 or around that. But in the winter time, sometimes 80 meters ain't good for, and the really long nights of winter, 80 meters is often not very good for the closeness of the stations. The skip is kind of bigger, and they actually moved to 160 meters, and they've been, I've heard them, I think it was like 1865 kilohertz, something like that. And so in the wintertime, I hear them also talking. So over the years, I started, the first time I received a signal on the 160 meter band, honestly, was when I got a decent radio. So it's probably the first time I've ever heard something there. It's probably when I had my Kenwood R5000 in the 90s. That's when I started listening in to 160 meters. And over the years, kind of noticed that it's always the same gang. You don't have a lot of new voices there or new people. It's like all the old gang that's there and been, and you can, guess every night that, yeah, that gang will be on 1850, that gang will be on 1950, that gang will be in 1933, that gang is going to be on 1875, and so on. But it's, I can't say I've heard, you hear bad behavior on the amateur bands, especially 40 and 20 meters. But I can't say I've heard bad behavior on 160. So it might be true. Might be true. David Arden, KJ4CMY, nice to have you here. Pretty cool. Yvonne says 160 needs an amplifier and space for it. L-shaped long wire antenna. I have used it, but my 100 watt don't do that well. Well, for 160 meters, you would need a pretty good antenna, and I know a lot of the Southern Quebec guys that talk there, I believe, they're kind of just set up mostly for 80 meters, but they kind of use antenna tuners to kind of match their antenna for 160. Oh, I think it's on. I heard something. Am I hearing a tone? Yeah, there is something. Very weak. 15967 has a very weak tone. I hear it barely. It barely shows up, and it's like an off and on tone. I don't know if it's the test they're doing before they do their official transmission, but Neil Toombs, nice to have you here. M0CJM in Basingstoke, Hampshire. No blooming YouTube notifications, so missed the show up to now. Just spending the evening in the shack doing a good clean. Yeah, a lot of people have been telling me, by the way, that they've not received notifications even when I post videos, and it's not on my part. There's no problem there. So YouTube acting up. Chris Freitas says, don't ever come to Memphis if you want to lose weight. Too many good eats around these parts. Well, I can tell you there's a lot of good stuff in Montreal also, and makes it harder. Makes it harder. I can tell you that. Rock the Tech guys got LY0HQ. That's what I had a little earlier. I had 14222. LY0HQ. That's what it was. That's what I was tuning when I started the show, actually. Yvonne says there's a yearly 160 meter contest and the band gets packed. Yeah. Always funny when there's contests because the bands get like full of signals. And you look at that and you're like, wow. And even bands that are dead revive themselves, And I can see a lot of distress of the regulars that say, man, I can't do anything. There's all these contesters everywhere. Richard says carry up for 16180. Let me just check it out if I get anything there. Yeah, it is there. There is a signal on 16180. I'm going to go back to 15967 and monitor. I can hear XP82. Hey, Harry Herkula. Nice to have you here. Finlandia AM Radio. Yeah, it would be nice to have some Finland AM stations. Absolutely. I haven't heard Finland in a while on the amateur radio band. I can tell you that. And 0HIU says he's on a seafood diet. As well as all the food I see, I hate. I like that. Oh, man. Yeah, David Darden says I'm not getting notifications either. Yeah, I know. And there's nothing on my part. Everything should be there. There's something that changed, unfortunately. Hunter Ham 9. Any tips? And welcome aboard, by the way. Any tips on improving connection for shortwave? Just gonna put this a little lower. I'm new into the hobby. I have a Texan R9012 with a portable reel antenna. You know, one of the biggest problems you might have is the fact that there's a lot of noise in your area. And that's the biggest problem. And then on R9012, what is said is that you don't have really a clear indication that actually where you are is very noisy. So, because with a real antenna on an R9012, you should be able, the receiver is, you know, basic, but still quite sensitive. You should be able to hear a lot of stuff. Make sure that you listen in on the proper times also. You know, if you listen at 1 p.m. In the afternoon local time, you might not hear much. So, you know, later in the afternoon or in the evening is always the best time for shortwave because there's more stations broadcasting to your target area. So, you know, there's that. Try to, you know, get yourself away from your home a little bit and go in a park or something and test it out there. Do you hear more signals? It might be the noise that's the problem. Much more than just like, you know, the antenna or because honestly, a R9012 with a real antenna should kind of work not bad, honestly. Dark Vegan, nice to have you here. Just got home from work, so you were live. Quite enjoyed your show. Like to grab a beer as well. You play with HF Rig. Cool. Welcome aboard. Always nice. Jane Dyer says, think we should all show up at Jill's house with a huge salad, big ball on the back of a pickup with balloons. Well, if you guys are all coming over, I will actually have a big barbecue instead, and we'll eat decent food, no salad, because it's going to be a special event. Chris Freitas says, I need to visit Canada at some point soon. I haven't been out of the country, except my being born in Naples, Italy. At the very least, I want to visit the CBC stations. Well, if you ever come to Montreal, Chris, one thing for sure, we got to meet up. Absolutely. And I've been to the U.S. I've been to the East Coast of the U.S. A little bit, and which I totally enjoy. I haven't been there a long time though. The last time I went to the United States probably dates back to the 90s. I haven't been in the U.S. for more than 20 years. So it tells you. And the last trip that I've done a little far away was Toronto, Ontario. And that's in 2008. Since then, I haven't really done a lot. You know, just stayed around southern Quebec pretty much. And I need to, you know, one of the things I want to do is visit more. You know, and try different things. I'm too much, you know, too much in Montreal now. I need to do something, but we got to meet up, and you got to come over. Montreal has amazing food, and I'm sure in Memphis there's tons of great food too. So for sure. I had an offer a month and a half ago. I had an offer of a friend of mine went down to Las Vegas, and I said, "Man, you should come with me. Be cool, you know." And I just couldn't. I couldn't, you know. It was too. When he asked me, it was like too close. You know, only a couple of weeks. So it was not, it was not feasible in that short time. But he was telling me, yeah, I'm gonna go back next year. You gotta prepare. And I got a few people also. I even got a message the other day um, from one of the followers saying, hey, you got to come down to the Winter Shortwave Festival, and I need to check that out. That would be a possibility for me if I plan it out really in advance. Going to the Shortwave Festival in 2019 would be nice. I know I'd have a ride with Sheldon. He goes there all the time, and so hey, XPA2, not very strong, but there the Russian number station 15967 upper sideband. It's very weak. So 15967 is very weak, but it's there. From the XPA2 from Russia. So Darth Vegan is from Ontario. Nice to have you here, my friend. Ivan says, when you visit Canada and they say if you have something to declare, just say I don't like hockey. You're gonna be turned back. Oh man, you're gonna be turned back. David in Barcelona, nice to have you on board as usual. David Arden says Canada's beautiful. Yeah, it is beautiful. We got some great places here in Canada. And the US is very beautiful. Everywhere I've been, I've enjoyed myself terribly. I've been to state of New York, Maine, New Hampshire, up to Virginia, and really amazing. I miss those. I miss that. I'd like to go back. William Helton's from Florida. Nice to have you on board. Super 20 Dan, nice to have you here. Got an adapter and hooked my CountyCom GP5 up to my truck's CB antenna. Works great. Now I have shortwave SSB in my truck. Cool. That's cool. That's cool. And XP2 just stopped. David says, made a couple of IARU HF Championship QSOs, but had a couple of good rack shoes. Like the rack shoes the best. I like contests for the fact that you actually will have many countries in a very short lapse of time. And it's kind of cool. But honestly, when there's a good conversation going on, and especially because that's the biggest problem when you're the listener in the middle, hearing both stations that are actually talking, it's kind of fun. I remember a couple of weeks back, there was a guy in the UK. He was talking with a guy in the state of New York. I was hearing both of them really well. And we're talking a little bit about technical stuff and digital modes. And I think they talked for like an hour and a half. And they stopped because propagation was getting bad and they started like having difficulty hearing each other. I stayed there an hour and a half just listening to these guys talking. It was kind of fun. There are some, when the conversation is good, I like that. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen very often. If you start talking about your socks, maybe I'm not going to listen in for a long time. But if you have a good conversation, sometimes on 80 meters it happens. You hear a few guys talking about radio or stuff, for sure. Jane Tiger says, "Oh no sacrificing diet for a company. That's a cop-out." Hey, you got to sacrifice from time to time when you get some company. Artie Gideon says, great to see you on Saturday again. You have your show on Friday. Randy in California. Thank you, Randy. Always nice to see you here, for sure. The Mysterious Stranger from Corpus Christi, Texas. This stream is about radio, shortwave radio, amateur radio. basically, that's pretty much what we have on this little place. And my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Chris Freitas says would like to got to the CIDX barbecue this year, but money went to a vacation later in the year. But perhaps next year, some folks at the Shortwave Fest wanted me to attend, so maybe I will at some point. That would be cool, because if you do go to the CIDX barbecue, I will of course be there also. And hey, you could be one of the guests talking. Then I'll ask a few questions on the live show. That'd be fun. So, you know. What else do we have? Yeah, great beers also, absolutely. Hunter Ham says, thanks for the help. I have trouble with noise. I'll try later this evening and see how it goes. Getting Radio Miami and a channel from Tennessee, no problem. Summing to channel now. Okay, cool, thanks. And try it out. You know, I understand noise is our enemy, and we all have it. I mean, if you look at that thing, my needle is at S6, like, you know, halfway up the scale, just because of the noise around me. And I've got an outdoor antenna. And, you know, from what I've seen with other people, is that I'm not actually that bad compared to others. Which, I mean, whoa, you know? So nothing much on 16180. It seems to be very weak. And you know, I've actually listened, like this week I went to a park and listened with the radio and, you know, a couple of feet of wire in the tree. And man, I had great reception of signals that I barely can hear over here. Just because there was low noise, and noise is the problem. And don't forget to move around your home. You know, maybe one part of your home will have less noise than another part. For example, I would love it if I could listen to this portable radio here, right here, smack in the middle of my office. Forget it, it's impossible. If I want to listen to that, I have to go to the kitchen. In the living room somewhat, but mostly in the kitchen. That's where it's the lowest noise in my home, you know. It's crazy. What else do we have? No problem, Mysterious Stranger. Richard's got 15967 strong. Bobby Burgess not getting it. Cosmic Lettuce, nice to have you on board from Monsoon, southeastern Arizona. Cool. Chris Freitas, seriously looking to try to go back to the fest next year. Hopefully, an old northeastern knockouts the power amid the snow. It's pretty. Yeah, well, you know, we never know. I don't know yet, but who knows? Maybe I'll be down there, and maybe we'll meet there. You know, but last year was amazing. You guys had an adventure. You know, it was crazy. When I remember when I replaced Sheldon at the International Radio Report, when he was coming back from the Winterfest. I remember reading all the reports of you know, the downed trees and flooding across the East Coast. And of course I had, from you, I had known, because I've seen your posts, that power was out and things were complicated. And I remember in the International Radio Report, I mentioned at the beginning, and hopefully it's not going to be too complicated for them to come back. And what happened is when Sheldon was here the week after and talking about, I mean, they got stuck, and they had to actually turn around in many roads because there were downed trees and all sorts of, you know, and flooding, and it was complicated to actually come back. Man. David Arden would like to come back to Canada. Please do. Come to Montreal. We'll have fun. Max Estrong, nice to have you here. Always cool to have everybody here. Hey, PLF Radio is back. Cool. So was the fireworks pretty? Yvonne says, I just did AM medium wave spectrum captures in New York City, in Washington, D.C. I published New York, but have not published the others yet. When I travel, I also do TV and FM scans when I travel. Yeah, this is fun. You know, that would be one thing that I would probably like to do if I had the time, the money, and everything. Go around, tune in the different parts of the, you know, there's the local stuff, the AM and FM scene, maybe TV, and also if you do a big road trip, you know, hearing things on shortwave that you don't hear here, but you'll hear maybe you know, in the south of the United States better, or in the West Coast, and so on. You know, there's a lot of stuff. So that's pretty cool. Richard Cook's got Voice of Korea in English on 13760. What else do we have? Vivian Lund says, we spent an entire weekend trying to track down the noise sources in our house. The light dimmers were the worst. Knockoff phone chargers were very bad. Fish tank pump was bad also. It's, you know, it's so sad because everything we buy has these shitty things that gives tons and tons of noise. And it's crazy. It's difficult to buy something today and not have noise as a result of it. You know, there are things that I do here that I will not, you know, turn on because of the noise that it creates all around. You know, it's just crazy. And I try to minimize the amount of things that work while I listen in. Plus the fact that I got no control over the neighbors. You know, I'm lucky, new neighbors, but there doesn't seem to be new noise sources. At least I'm happy for that. But still, you know, when I look at the noise sources here, and I could confirm it when there's a power outage, the majority of the noise doesn't come from my home, or even from the others in the building. It comes from somewhere else. A couple of years back, we had a power outage only on the street. So the people in the backyard on the other side, they had electricity. And I had as much noise on shortwave than I do with regular power, which kind of told me, okay, the noise source is not from here. The noise source is somewhere there. One of the suspecting noise sources for me, I am wondering, because in the backyard is the Bell telephone wires and fiber optics. And I've often been thinking, could some of the noise come out of that big cable there? Really been thinking if it was, you know. Alfredo says, Gilles, I had just enough time to see the highlight of fireworks for the France national celebration. That's why I left. Yeah, that's what I guessed. That's what I guessed. David Arden says, the lowest noise in my home is in the dining room, but I still have to go away from the house to get lower noise. Same here. I mean, if I really want to have low noise for something, I gotta go off to the park, you know? It's just crazy. It's just crazy. It's that's the sad thing. Oh no, I totally, Yvonne. You know, I have one, but it's actually good. But there's my Toshiba laptop has, you know, its original power supply, and that almost doesn't generate any noise. I see very little difference from being plugged in or not. I bought two generic power supplies for the laptops, and the reason I had bought those is that they had a switch. So it's one of those power supplies that has, like, you know, it comes with like 25 different little plugs, and you have a voltage setting on the power supply itself, so that it actually works with any brand of laptop that you have. And I thought, oh, this is cool. I can power any brand laptop. And also it was cool because when I bought those, it was the time when I was doing some tech jobs. So sometimes when the computer wouldn't turn on laptops, well, I could bring one of those and test the power supply just by switching the power supply with that one and see if the computer turns on, then I know the power supply is dead. And when I bought them, there was one left of one brand, and there was another one that was kind of no brand. It doesn't have anything written except Chinese, pretty much. The one that is branded, a weird brand that I don't know what, I've never heard before, but that one actually doesn't do any noise. It actually works well and pretty much does zero noise. But the Chinese one that doesn't have anything written on it, that is a noise source, a crazy noise source. You plug that in, everything goes noisy. Everything. It's like, you'll get the needle of the S meter in the red, like S9 plus 20, just of white noise. It's just crazy. Ah, man. Gotta be careful with these things. Charles Williams, nice to have you here, says, my living room is pretty quiet. Can get surprisingly good reception with a Texan wire antenna plugged in. Cool. You're lucky. Enjoy while it lasts. Well, it reminds me, go back in the 80s. I could just listen to shortwave anywhere. In the living room, in the kitchen, whatever. It was quiet everywhere. Vicky Delmage, nice to have you here, says, local CIDXer here in the Edmonton area was just telling me about the interference from the gas company he gets using their new remote meter readers. Not good. Whoa. Here in Quebec we have our new, they've changed the electric meters for the new generation of electric meters. That was one of the things I was scared of. Will that add to the noise level around us? It doesn't seem to, but man, it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. And Vivian Lund says the invisible dog fence at our neighbors is really bad. Max S. Strong says, I use lots of loop antennas and I live in a noisy urban environment. And it works well for you, Max S. Strong? Cosmic Lettuce says, I live about 8 miles from a power plant. I've never measured my RF noise level, but I can make a pretty good guess. Yeah, well, 8 miles is still a little, it's still not living next to it. But it's kind of interesting. There's so much noise around us. It's just crazy. Just crazy. Oh, absolutely. If you do radio astronomy, you need to, that will be something you'll be looking at for sure, because you need lower noise. The positive thing about radio astronomy, Cosmic Lettuce, is that a lot of the stuff from radio astronomy is on much higher frequencies. And the good news is they tend to be less susceptible to noise than the HF shortwave bands, for example. Here, if I start tuning around with my ICOM, so in the lower frequencies of shortwave up to 30 megahertz, noisy, then I move up to 30 megahertz and up. Of course, at 30 megahertz, it's noisy, but as I move up and tune and move up, I see that the S meter noise goes down steadily. And one of the things is that there's less noise on the higher frequencies. Doesn't mean there's zero noise, and for radio astronomy, your noise floor needs to be extremely low, because radio astronomy is a different beast. We do listen to very weak signals here, but radio astronomy tends to have a listen in on signals that are even weaker than the weak signals that we can listen on the shortwave. So even if the noise floor is low. It might not be low enough, but it's definitely something you'll be looking at for sure. Richard Cook says Cairo on 9,800. So, what else do we have? Kevin Y, nice to have you here. Some of the old power supplies weigh 2 pounds, a lot of weight on an outlet. Yeah, but the thing is, Kevin, is that those old power supplies generated very low noise because they were pretty much linear power supplies. No, you know, what is killing the hobby with a lot of the power supplies is the switching power supplies. They have so many, you know, little oscillators in there and they generate tons of harmonics on every frequency. You know, that's probably what you see when you see the lines here, is those, you know, harmonics of all sorts of noisy power supplies. At least with the heavyweight power supply, there's no noise, very little noise, you know. Yeah, that's also the case, Ivan. Radio astronomy needs very expensive low noise amplifiers. 13884. Let's put 13884. It's probably already passed. Hopefully not. Yeah, it's there. 13884. Upper sideband XPA2. So 13884 upper sideband, much better signal than the 15 megahertz one. And it is now over. 13884 XPA2 Russian number station, getting its signal across the Atlantic up to here. Pretty cool. Hey, Donald Hosner. Nice to have you here. Installing his W6 LVP loop antenna this weekend. We'll bring in the coax rotor cables tomorrow when the rain are done. Hoping for some decent results. I tell you, Donald, I was looking at the W6 LVP loop antenna late last night on the website. And it's because I want to lower my credit card that I didn't do it, because I've been, you know, giving a lot of cash on the credit card to lower the amount that I owe. But I gotta say, I was this close of, oh, the hell with it, I'm getting a W6 LVP loop and, you know, deal with the consequence of, you know, $300 on the credit card later. I was looking at it, and I was looking at the reviews, and I saw a few videos, and I was like, oh man, if that, you know, and you know, some people tell me, why don't you build it yourself? You know what? It's easy to say build it yourself when you have the time to do it, when you don't have the time to do it. And honestly, I don't feel like playing around with it. You know, I feel like I want to have something that's done, and I just install it, and it works, and that's it, you know. But I came this close. I came this close. I was like, oh man. But I'm gonna wait. You know, the reason I didn't do it is because there's a psychological side to it. So I've been steadily, you know, pushing my credit card down and getting more and more space on it. And so there's like a psychological thing in here, because if I had purchased it, it would have put the amount that I owe a little, you know, up by 300, and I got a few things I got to buy also this month. So I would thought, oh man, I'm going back up again, and it was like, nah, I gotta lower it down. And when it gets really to a more manageable amount, I'm gonna buy it. So like this fall, I'll have down to enough that it's gonna be okay. We're gonna let's do it. It's just that I want to lower the amount in case something happens. Because I got a really high limit, but the problem is you don't want to load a credit card because it's dreadfully difficult to bring back down. So I'm thinking of more of if something happens, if the amount that I owe is very low, it's not a problem. Where if you have a lot of money, and last year when YouTube wasn't working very well, there are a few things that I did that I put on the credit card for a while. So the amount went up, and it goes up quite fast. So now I got enough YouTube monetization to bring it back down. So I'm bringing it back down. But man, I was this close yesterday. I know one day I'm going to be there, and I'm just going to click, purchase, add to cart. Come on, ship me that thing. I want to have it. Yvonne says, I've been using the W6 LVP portable version. Works well on lower frequencies. HF is average. Interesting. HF is average. But, it's one of the things that is to know is, of course, if the signal to noise ratio is better, absolutely Southern Illinois Sam, especially when you had a few beers. He says never buy things late at night. That plus late at night plus you just had a few beers is the worst thing. Don't buy anything on your credit card when those are reunited, because you just the next morning you're like, what the hell did I do yesterday? Hirofumi or Yokoyama, nice to have you here from Japan. Good morning. That's why the W6 LVP loop is cool, Southern Illinois San, because it has a return policy and it's easy to send back. So if I purchase and I don't like it, the guy, will take it back, and which is much easier and it's less expensive than the Wellbrook. And from what I've seen, and I've seen even a few videos of comparing Wellbrooks and LVP, the W6 LVP loop, they seem to perform pretty much the same. Chris Freitas says Morse code on 14044. And that's the bottom part of 20 meters. 20 meters. Look at that. Look at all the little lines there. That's like tons of Morse code here. Look at that. There's a lot of Morse code signals in the bottom part of 20 meters. I can tell you that. Yeah, that's station that I have there is WWCR 13845.
A book in the Bible that if people are interested in reading it, they'll say, wait, that looks a lot.
Which usually booms in here. Never buy things on drinking whiskey or vodka or beer. Dada Duden, nice to have you here. He's receiving the usual 4625 buzzer. Vancouver Island DX just says it can be hard to actually save money by building something yourself unless you are making at least several copies of it. Yeah, well, I did see the a plan for a magnetic loop that honestly would, if you buy the parts and everything and take the time to build it, it's probably going to cost you a fifth of the price of the W6 LVP loop. But I don't feel like, I don't feel like. Donald Hofsner, credit history is very important nowadays. Try to pay the balance each month, paying interest. Yeah, that's also the part where I kind of, when I see my statement every month and I see the amount of interest paid, you also, look at that and you're like, well, that is money that could be in my pocket instead of going to a big bank. I got good credit, so I've got two big credit cards, but one that I keep at zero, and we'll just use it a little bit here and there to purchase, just to have it kind of working. And there's the main one that I use all the time. That is the main one. That's the one that I did I did put a lot on it last year. And when you come to a point where your minimum payment is so high that you're like, whoa, okay, time to change something. I never do minimum payments. I always do a lot more than minimum payments. But still, when you put these cards a very high amount, they are difficult. Even with a good payment, they're difficult to bring down. You look at it and you're like, wow, it doesn't come down that fast. And even though you put 1,000 on the card and you're like, well, it just went down like this, really? Well, so you gotta. That's what right now is bugging me. Is no, bring it down, and when it's down to a reasonable amount, because right now it's not a reasonable amount. But most of that was from last year, and it's been coming down steadily since it peaked at Christmas, because Christmas is Christmas. But after that, starting January, it started coming down. I started, kind of spending less and going less out to the restaurants and do things. And or if I go out, go to less expensive places and bring it down. Yvonne says I took the W6 LVP loop with me on business trip back down, nothing, and I used it from 35th floor hotel room in Manhattan. It was neat. Vancouver, so a decent amplifier at the heart of the receiving loop is about 150. So you can save a little bit of money, but not much. Yeah, and that's the thing, if you want to have the amplifier and everything, because that has a low noise amplifier on it, everything. So it is kind of good. Donald Halsner says MFJ 1886 is similar and better built, but too big to take portable. Yeah, I don't want to have it portable personally. I want to have the loop, it's going to stay there in the back all the time, PLF says, do you have lots of signals on 10 meters? Nothing here that I know. There's if I go on 10 meters, I see that there's really nothing there except my the noise lines. And I will know if 10 meters open by looking at the CB band. Do I have anything on CB? Nothing is happening. So 10 meters here, and the upper frequencies are really, really not there. Time stations today, not very strong. If I look at WWV 15, it's very weak. 10, very weak also. If I look at RWM, 14996, 9996. I hear 9996 slightly, but very weak, very weak. It's not the best time, Richard. So What else we have? The Exorcist. Come on, Joe. This is the Shortwave Show, not the finest report. What else do we have? So 10 meter is only open for Europe right now. Yeah, well, what's happening with 10 meters, okay? And here's the thing. 10 meters, because we are in the slow part of solar activity, 10 meters is pretty much closed all the time lately. Where 10 meters is changing it's because of, in your case, you probably have some sporadic E-skip happening over Europe today. So you guys are enjoying that because of the sporadic E-skip that's happening over there. Because solar flux is too low to support 10 meters right now. So what's happening is that sporadic E-skip is a much more local event. It can be transatlantic, but most of the time it's confined to a specific area. So you probably have some happening over Europe, and Europe, because there's so many countries, now you hear different countries on 10 meters. If there would be some happening here, it usually is like East Coast or down south or West Coast, or depending on where it is. Right now there's nothing here. So right now that's mostly it. If it would be because of solar activity, so say there's a huge sunspot that appears, solar flux soars to above 100, you can safely say that when the solar flux is like 100 or more, 10 meters is usually pretty much all the time open. Now, if it would be because of solar activity that 10 meters open, then we would have probably contacts from Europe to North America and pretty much around the world in the daytime. It's really a question of solar activity for it to be open. When we're in the maximum of solar activity, 10 meters is open all the time. When we were at the peak of this solar cycle, 10 meters was open at the daytime pretty much all the time. In the wintertime, I would hear tons of signals from South America and Europe. But now we're at a very low part of the solar cycle. And unless solar flux rises, it will, because it's in a solar minimum, the activity, the solar flux and the solar activity, will change from time to time. There's a sunspot that will appear. Solar flux will, move to 80, 90, 100. When that happens, you temporarily have 10 meter open. It happens, will last a few days, and then solar flux drops, 10 meters back off. And that's what we call the maximum usable frequency. When the solar flux is a certain level, you also have the ionosphere that has what we call the maximum usable frequency, which is the cutoff point, the place where if you transmit past that frequency, past the maximum usable frequency, your signal is not going to bounce out the ionosphere, it's going to go straight to space. So if an amateur radio operator right now in North America, where there's no sporadic E happening, transmits a signal on 10 meters, he's sending a signal to space right now, because the ionosphere is too weak to support the bouncing of the signal of 10 meters. Solar flux is actually so low that even 15 meters is not very good. 21 megahertz. So it gives you an idea. The cutoff point right now is in the maximum usable frequency is almost below 20 megahertz at times in daytime, which is very low. A big chunk is not there. So let's cross our fingers, more solar activity, and let's cross our fingers for sporadic E-skip. And sporadic E-skip, if you want to check out what sporadic E-skip does, is that in regular propagation, if the solar flux would be high, say 150, you would notice that the 10 meter band opens up when the sun rises, and the 10 meter band stops around sunset or an hour after sunset. That shows you that it's induced by the solar activity. Sporadic E-skip doesn't obey these rules. Sporadic E-skip can happen anytime. It's partly related to the weather, partly related to, there's many things, we're not totally sure about it. But sporadic E-skip can happen at any time, which means it could be midnight and you could hear 10 meter signals. And that tells you it's Sportic E-skip. Because at midnight, just with solar activity, 10 meters cannot be open. I'm hearing the what I believe is the Morse code ID of RWM Moscow time signal. 15390 Spain. Let's check it out here. Not very strong. 15520. I think it's another one. Signals from Europe are not that strong. Huh? 15520. A little bit of Spain. Really, 15520 is pretty much the best one here. And it is weak compared to what I'm used to. So, you know. What else do we have? What else do we have? Let's check it out here. Oh, really? Madrid the Exer says, I wish the E-skip activity was good here in Europe, especially in UK. It was been poor so far this year, this season. Oh, really? Kind of interesting. Interesting because I've seen many reports from the UK of people actually getting a lot of stuff, including on the lower FM band, like, you know, 70 megahertz, 76 megahertz. I gotta say, you know, that you're mentioning that, I've tried quite a few times to listen to check, you know, channel 6 of the CB band. And I've got to say that I have the impression I heard less activity in Sportic E-skip here too. Maybe this year. I don't know why. Dave Todd says, in 89, solar flux is so high, I have 2 layers supported long haul DX on 10, 11 meters all night. In the summertime, it can happen. In the summertime, with a very, very high solar flux, I need to find a book. I don't remember what date it is. I have a book. I don't know why, but in the 80s and part of the 90s, I had a book where I would actually write down solar flux indices and do graphics of the solar activity. And I have in that book many months and years of solar activity. And, you know, the highest solar flux that I have seen was 353. It was very high. And I guess that's sometime in the 90s. Somewhere in the 90s. The last big solar, you know, the last big solar cycle we had. And I mean, when it's so high, when it's high like that, it's crazy. I mean, you know, you hear signals all night on, you know, 20 meters and 15 meters is there and 10 meters is like booming with tons of signals. Pretty crazy. Take care, Chain Dagger. Always nice to have you here. Love you too. Stay safe. So, you know, it's kind of interesting. I do the extras. So the ham bands like 10 and 6 bands are doing okay, but not the best compared to the past. It's the FM band that I monitor the most, which is the worst so far. Yeah, maybe the Sportic, yeah, okay. Maybe the Sportic E-skip that you've encountered wasn't, you know, the patches weren't ionized enough to support the FM band monitoring. Because I did see some people posting of the FM band stuff, but not a lot. So you're watching the Shortwave show. Just a little self-promotion here that I forgot to kind of bring it up. But if you want to do some donations, thank you very much. Helps me continue with all of this. Maybe purchase a W6 LVP loop. And of course, if you enjoy what I do, it helps me a lot. I use the money to pay 99% of what I use is to pay for equipment and stuff that I need for the show. I mean, that is to maintain everything. I was telling you at the beginning of the show, I need a new computer, I'll need, new camera, I need stuff. I'm reorganizing everything, and well, donations are helping me out with this. And I want to thank everybody that have donated, of course. And if you like what I do, and especially, I'm trying to always go out to those that have never donated before. If you've never donated before, when I think about it, if you like what I do, and you're here all the time, I'll spare a little something. PayPal.me/shortwave, or at the Yahoo email you see there. And I don't even know if you see it. And Patreon.com/radio and computers, and you can join 11 patrons that are giving me a little something every month. Thank you so much for everybody that donated. It's much appreciated. Okay. We are going to continue with a little bit of amateur bands for those that want to know where to listen in. We'll mention some of the frequency ranges here for the amateur band also. Dave Tuss says I would be talking to Australia at midnight on 11 with the beam pointed northwest and swinging back. Yeah, because the North Pole, there's a lot of the activity, by the way, is because especially if you're in the northern hemisphere, for example, in the summertime, like 20 meters right now, that's what's happening. People will send their signal northward because since the North Pole is in daylight all the time, 24 hours, you can actually use that North Pole ionization and go down to Australia or the other side of the world and listen in. And I mean, I hear so many stations in Europe saying, hey, beaming North Pole to North America and stuff like that, and it works great. I mean, you hear these European signals on 20 meters at midnight or 1 a.m. It's always cool. And when the solar flux was high enough, yeah, probably you could be on 11 or 10 meters and use that trick and have signals 24 hours. Absolutely. Andrew DX just says there was E-skip today on the FM band, but it was weak and very random. Yeah, that's maybe what's happening. The patches are not ionized enough, so they can't support or don't support much. JDX says, listen, Channel 6 2 days ago. Hey, Lassie, nice to have you here. Always fun to have you on board. No, it's totally normal, Richard. It's because the camera has auto. It has the. It will actually change its lighting when there's something bright that appears. So the screen will appear bright when I show the donation screen. So the camera will lower its lighting. And then I come back here and will actually increase it because it doesn't see as much. That's an effect of the fact that's why I always leave the light on at the top here, because it creates a lot more of light in the place. So the camera is less subject to change, to brighter or darker, depending on what I show when there's more lighting around me, because it's more uniform. Andy Coley on channel 38 FM was open to Germany, 27971.25. Wow. Nice to have you here, Andy. Jared says, D-Star always good reception. Chris Freda says, yeah, probably a camera. Yeah, it's the automatic setting, absolutely. It tries to adjust itself, so it changes. That's why I have more lighting usually. Because normally I would, with the lighting at the top, it's brighter here. It's just a test that I'm doing today because I wanted to remove the glare off the screen. Richard Cook has a CHU weak on 7850. So quickly, the amateur radio bands, what are they? What are they? So in the shortwave spectrum, there's 80 meters, 3,500 to 4,000 kilohertz. Which is mostly a nighttime band. Can be 24 hours in the winter. Lots of local rack chew there. Lots of stuff. It's different for Europe and North America, I believe. And there are little differences, but you know, roughly 3,500, 4,000 kilohertz, 80 meters. There's a 60 meter divided into channels from 53, 51.5 to 53 to 66.5. Which is upper sideband. It's because 80 meters is lower sideband, by the way. 60 meters is a unique band that has several channels that are in special allocations. It's upper sideband, so it doesn't follow the rules of lower sideband of below, 10 megahertz. It's a relatively new allocation, but it's interesting to tune around. There's all sorts of things there. Been listening to a lot of digital ones there. A lot of people using FT8. 40 meters, 7,000 to 7,300 kilohertz. Lower sideband, great band. Pretty much 24 hours. Local in the daytime. More distance in the evening, nighttime. Last night I heard a guy from the UK on 7129, I believe. And I think I listened to the guy an hour. Having contacts with stations across the United States. There's a 30 meter band, which is 10.1 to 10.15 megahertz, so 10,100 to 10,150. That doesn't have voice. It's digital or Morse code only. 20 meters, great band, 14,000 to 14,350. One of my favorite. Daytime mostly, but if you're high up in the like here, higher latitudes, summertime it's pretty much a 24-hour band. In the wintertime it will shut down usually a couple of hours after sunset. 17 meters, 18068 to 18168. I like that one. I've heard some of the best DX there. It's a very small band, upper sideband, like 20 meters upper sideband. There's some digital modes also. 15 meters, 21,000 to 21,450. That one isn't open much these days. It seems that solar flux is too low. 12 meters, 24,890 to 24,990. Very small band. Interesting, but with the low solar flux doesn't happen much these days. And the famous 10 meter band. One of the best bands when it's open. It's amazing. 28,000 to 29,700. It has one very particular thing. It's one of the only bands that at the upper part of it, 29,300 to 29,700, there's actually some FM activity, which is kind of cool. But 10 meters is really not been active much lately. I'm gonna tell you that. So. Yeah, well, it's 75 meters. It's like inside an 80 meter band, Richard. Honestly, for the amateur stuff. Hey, take care, Manrider DXer. David Hobbs, nice to have you here, as usual. So these are the amateur bands that you go through. There's a lot of fun stuff to listen to. Sometimes there's contests and tons of activity, like this weekend. Sometimes you'll hear rack chew, you'll hear all sorts of, kind of interesting stuff. So, it's kind of cool. have a listen. It's always fun to be there. Let's check it out here. Check it out here. Okay. So we're getting at 2 hours. Anybody has anything to add to the conversation? I will be kind of winding down pretty much at the 2 hour mark today. I'm a little tired, and I want to enjoy a little Saturday evening, just, you know, easy, taking it easy, listening into the radio. Tomorrow, for those that listen to the International Radio Report on ckut.ca for the streaming part, tomorrow I'm part of the International Radio Report at 14:30 UTC on ckut.ca. You can stream it, you can listen to the archive. So that's going to be, that's always a fun show, and you can listen to it every Sunday. But pretty cool. Wow, that's a long time, David. Long time. Yeah, we're getting close to 2200. 2200 usually has a voice of two stations that are coming to North America, Voice of Turkey. 9830, Radio Romania 9760 also usually coming in at 2200. So hope everybody is enjoying, or has enjoyed, even though it's a little shorter. We had 3 hours yesterday, so it wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad. So I'm going to say bye for now, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show, even though it was a little shorter today. We'll be back next Friday, 2000 hours Universal Time, and we will talk about radio, as usual. So, Miguel Almaj will be heading out on vacation, so next follow show, I will see you in Montreal. Cool. Looking forward to see you, Mickey, in the CIDX barbecue, for sure. Always nice to be here. Captain Dave on the 80-meter band, Jerry. Yeah. Pretty cool. So have a great evening, guys. Take care, and looking forward to the next show. Stay safe, my friends. And turn on the radios and listen in. Okay, guys? Take care. Bye-bye now.